Hello, my name is Patrick and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we shall be understanding more about Lightroom. So there are different types of Lightroom. Let's say generally there are two. There is the Lightroom CC or the Lightroom mobile version, and there is the Lightroom Classic, which is the offline version of Lightroom, which is supported by the PC. In today's video, we shall be talking about the Lightroom mobile version and understand how it works and generally learn everything about Lightroom. So to start working with Lightroom, you must have an Adobe account. If you don't have one, then you should create. If you have an account, then generally all Adobe accounts or all Adobe software are supported by a single account. You just log into your account, then you can start editing your photos. You can edit your photos offline. All you have to is create an account, and after an account, you are good to go in editing your photos. So in today's video, we shall look more about Lightroom, and without wasting any time, let's get started. So you open your Lightroom software. So as for me, I have already created an account because I use this software to edit all my photos. So when you open the software, the first screen interface you find is the library module. So the library module has got folders or albums, which we start with the first album here is the all photos album. That is the default folder where your photos go when you import your photos or do your editing. Then you have the people's album. This is a premium feature. That means you have to subscribe to use the people album. That album is used to organize. Lightroom uses artificial intelligence to organize your photos in terms of people's by detecting the faces in your photographs or such thing. Then you have the deleted album. This is where your photos go. So after you delete them from your Lightroom catalog, and in this deleted album, you can be able to restore your photos within 60 days. Then the next four albums, the albums tab here shows the albums which you have created so that you can save your photos in there. For example, this is my Lightroom mobile at Mran album. I created it myself, but I usually don't use it. Then here, the blue tiles you can see at the bottom right, we have the first one is the import button. Then you have the camera button. The camera button, Lightroom comes with an inbuilt camera which supports many things. It has the automatic camera mode, then it has the pro mode, which I generally love using. It is very good. As you can see, it supports the pro mode, which includes setting up your shutter speed, your ISO, your white balance, your focus, and then we have the reset button where you can reset all the settings. Back to the software itself, we have the import. The next here is the import button where you are able to import all your photos from the device memory or your SD card. By default, the app generally imports or sorts your folders by time. The time which, for example, as you can see in this, as new photos get added into your device, the Lightroom sorts them by time. But you can also change this one to device folders. This will allow Lightroom to sort your photos by the device folders, the folders which you have in your phone, for easier organization and understanding of your photos. You see, so it has all the folders sorted here. Then back into the software, we have the menu button here where you see all the information about your Adobe account. Then let's jump into preferences. This is the most important part here in this video. Then we have the enable auto add function. The enable auto add function allows you to import photos automatically. When you open Lightroom, it is checks for your photos, all your photos in your device, and auto imports new photos as they get added into your device. Then, but we have the import from all locations. This option allows Lightroom to scan all the folders and import any new photos that come into your device. We also, if you turn the import from all locations off, you'll be able to see all your folders, so that you can select which folders you'd like your photos imported from. But to ease the import process, I prefer importing from all locations. Then I can later delete the images that I do not want into my Lightroom catalog. We have the people view. Again, this is a premium feature that allows you to view your photos auto-sorted according to the faces that are recognized into your albums. Then we have the photo import options. These options allow you to set how you want the Lightroom software to import your raw images. Then we have the Adobe default, we have the camera settings. Then you choose according to your preference. Then we have add copyright for the metadata. Metadata allows you to search for your photos using a specific keyword. For example, if I log into my Adobe Creative Cloud, which is currently inactive due to subscription, I should be able, when I search the C brand photography TM metadata, I should be able to see my photos into the cloud. Now we have the send usage data. This is for development purposes. It is used to send information in case your software crashes. Then that information, Adobe can use it to improve their software and such things. Then use cellular data. This function allows your photos to be synced using your cellular data. By default, it is off to allow you to only use Wi-Fi and reduce the data uses. So back into the Lightroom software, when you can import your photos directly from this screen by tapping the add button, but you can also import them after opening the all photos library folder. Here you see all the imported photos. For example, these photos have been auto imported into the Lightroom catalog, but I can manually import the photos. Here I'll sort my photos by time. It may take a while before it refreshes. Then after this, I can be able to see the recently captured photos or the recently added photos into my device internal storage. By clicking here, I should be able to see all the photos. Then you note something. I select these photos for import. Then I also select these which have been auto imported already. Then you'll note what Lightroom will do. Then I'll click add. When I click add, Lightroom starts importing the photos. You see, important 0 out of 13 images. Then it will start importing the photos one by one. Then Lightroom does not import duplicate photographs. When I talk of duplicate, I mean that if two photos have the same name, Lightroom does not even if the two photos aren't the same, Lightroom will not import a duplicate. It will import only the first photo, and it does not look physically at the photograph. Instead, it reads the code. So after importing the photos, Lightroom will tell you that it cannot import duplicates. You see, skipped importing duplicates. Now, let us open a photo here so that we can dive into the editing process. Let's edit this photo. So based on the memory size of your smartphone, Lightroom can perform better or poorly. So let's very quickly go through these tabs here in the panel. We have the selective tab, which is the selective panel. The selective and the healing panel, these are premium features. You have to pay for them. You have to have a subscription so that you can edit using them. The selective panel allows you to edit specific places in your photo. So the selective panel has the radio filter and the graduated filter that allow you to select the areas you want edited. Then we have the healing. The healing tab or the healing tool is used to remove blemishes from your photo, and Lightroom uses artificial intelligence to determine how the background will look like after you have removed your blemishes. Then we have the crop tool. The crop tool is used to crop your photo and rotate. It is usually crop and rotate. So it has the original, locked, straighten, rotate left, rotate right, and flip horizontal, flip vertical. Yeah, those are all the manipulations you can do with your photo. Then we have the profile tab. The profile contains some preset profile that are used to enhance the look of your photos, as you can see, based on your preference. But personally, I prefer to adjust or to edit my photos manually without using any profile. Then we have the going back to the you should discard this because I want to edit manually. Then we have the auto profile, the auto tab or the auto tool does some manual adjustments on the light and the colors of your photo automatically. These can be useful if you want quick adjustments, but also again I prefer doing this one manually. So I will just reset the corrections which Lightroom has made for me. Now we have the light tab. This light tab contains everything that is used to correct your colors, starting with the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and the tone curve here. Now the tone curve has the light adjusting tool. We have the RGB tool, which is used to adjust the reds, the greens, and the blues. Then we have the color tab. The color has temperature. This is for correcting the white balance, the tint, the vibrance, and the saturation of your colors. Then we have the grading tool here, whereby we can grade our colors. Here we grade our shadows, grade our midtones, highlights, and the global adjustment. Global means the entire photo. Then we have the HSL panel or the color mix. This contains the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the aqua, the blue, the purple, and the magenta colors. Now, then it has the hue, saturation, and luminance. We shall look at that later. Then we have the effects. This panel is used to create dramatic effects into your photos as you edit them. Then we have the details. Here it is. This panel is used to bring out the details in your photo and make everything in your photo conspicuous. Then we have the optics tab. The optics tab is used to correct any lens errors or depending on the camera that you've used. Then we have the geometry tool. The geometry is used to correct the perspective of your photo. This again is a premium feature. You have to subscribe to use it. We have the presets. These are the already made presets in Lightroom. You can use them, but once again I said I don't prefer using presets. Okay, back into our photo. We have the previous to see the previous ways the edits that you have done previously. We have the versions. This shows you all the versions of your edits. Then we have the reset. This takes back the photo into the normal tool or the normal appearance. Now, here let's start with the menu button. The menu button has the add to tool, move to. Then we have the delete. This is used to delete the photo from your catalog. Then we have the show histogram. The histogram has parts which ranges from the blacks to the blacks at this side to light or whites here. Then in between we have the highlights and the shadows and the midtones. So then we have the show info. This is used to show the info on your photo, about everything about your photo. Then we have the create preset. This tool is used to create a preset like the ones you've seen below. Then we have the copy setting. This tool is used to, you can edit this photo and then copy the settings, pick the settings that you want copied, then apply the settings to another photo. Then we have the paste settings. After you've copied, then start slideshow and the help too. Then we come here to the share. The share button has the save to device. This is used for exporting a photo after you have edited. Then we have the include watermark. If you want a watermark, include metadata. These are keywords that are used to search your photos in the cloud. Now you can customize your watermark as you wish. Then we have this as a text, whereby after you input the text here, or you can use the text or the graphic watermark. Graphic one uses photos or generally graphics, but the text watermark, which I prefer, uses the words which you type in this box. So after typing your watermark, you can customize how the font which you have. Right now Lightroom has 5 fonts, that is, as you can see, the Source and Pro, Roboto, Monospace, Sans Serif, and the Serif font. This tool is used for bolding. This one is italics. This is for flipping your or rotating your watermark. Then we have the white and the black colors for your watermark, and the white color. Then we have the size of your watermark. You can adjust your size. Then the opacity. Then you have the horizontal offset. This is used to move your watermark manually. So the vertical and the horizontal offsets. For example, I can move my watermark to the position I wish. Vertical, I can use the vertical offset to move to the vertically. Then now back into the editing itself. So we shall start with corrections. We first correct any defects in your photo before you continue in handling the colors. So to start with, I will first start with the optics tab, which is correcting any defects that the lens could have introduced while I was capturing. Although I never used a camera, the digital single lens reflex cameras or the mirrorless cameras, I just used this device to capture these photos. But I will always recommend that you remove chromatic aberrations. Chromatic aberrations are those rainbow colors which are formed if the light is split. The sunlight is split by the lens of your camera. Remember that the lens of your camera has a refractive index, and different lights in the sun rays, you know that the rays are made up of the 7 colors, and each of the color or the waves has a different diffractive index. In such case, there may be defects, and the colors, the white color or the white light may be split into 7 rainbow colors, and that is what we call chromatic aberrations. So when you remove the chromatic aberrations, it's like you are combining them back into white light. Then we have enable the lens profile corrections. This one, Lightroom includes some common lens profiles, which are here as the manually select a profile. Then you can select the model or the company that made your lens. Let's say, for example, I'll use Canon. Then it has some model of lenses. Let's say I'll use a Canon EF50mm f1.4 USM. Then if I apply that profile, the photo gets adjusted according to that profile, according to how that lens should look like if at install I shot using the Canon f50mm f1.4 USM. I may also select, let's say, a 70 to 300 mm f4 to 5.6 IS USM Canon lens, and adjustment will be made accordingly. Let's try another one. Let's say 18 to 55 mm f3.5 to 5.6 IS, and as you can see, it is making the adjustment, as you can see. Yeah. So let's generally go with the 50 mm lens f1.4 USM. Now after this one, so we can handle the distortion corrections if at all your image is distorted. But for this image, the image was not distorted, so it will handle the distortions according to the profile you selected. Then we have the lens vignetting. The vignettes, we shall talk about the vignettes later on. These are the blacks or the whites you see at the corners. Now let's reset it back to normal. Now let us, after making the optics corrections, we jump into the lights. So now the exposure refers to the ISO and the shutter speed and the aperture settings of your camera that were used to adjust the amount of light that was entering into the camera. Therefore, if you lower the exposure, the image becomes darker. Increasing the exposure makes the image brighter. So in our case, the image was properly exposed, so we shall leave it at the default position. Then the contrast, this makes the darker parts darker and the brighter parts brighter. For example, if we reduce the contrast, you shall see that there is no that feature. You cannot differentiate between the dark parts and the bright parts. But if we increase our contrast, the dark parts becomes darker and the bright parts becomes brighter. In our case, we want to do away with the shadows that were captured here. So in our case, we shall reduce the contrast. Now, the highlights refers to the general white highlight that comes in your photograph here at the surface of the photo. So in our case, and the whites. So in our case, we shall lower the highlights. Then let's see how it would be if we increased the highlights. So in our case, when we increase the highlight, you can see that whitish light is becoming more and more. If we reduce, you can observe as the corridor here below. You can see if we increase, it is becoming brighter. If we reduce, the white color is fading. Then you have the shadows. Reduce, this increases the shadow, while taking to the opposite side reduces the shadow. In our case, we want some shadows, so we shall reduce like that, or to a -4 value. But there is no need of cramming the values. You will only adjust according to how you see your photo. Then we have the white. This generally deals with the white. Increasing its value increases the value of the whites. Decreasing this one reduces the amount of whites in your photo. Let us increase the whites to that level. Then blacks, just like the white, taking it to the negative side increases the blacks. Taking it to the opposite side increases the whites, the blacks, I mean. So in our case, we don't want blacks, introduce shadows. So in our case, we shall take it to the positive side so that we can reduce the shadows. Again, I've said you should not cram these numbers. Instead, work to the level best. Now we are done with correcting the colors, but still one thing, we have the tone curve. Already you can see the difference, the before and the after. Now let us dive into the tone curve. The tone curve is used to correct, let's say, start with the luminance part. This is used to selectively correct the contrast. For example, this contrast that I was using here, this contrast corrects the entire photo. But when you come to the tone curve, the contrast is corrected in the range or the area where the tone curve is covering. So to make more contrast, that means making the shadows more darker and the highlights more brighter. You drop the shadows down and you increase the highlights. So the S-curve makes that photo becomes dramatic, or in terms of contrast, it has a very contrasting value. So again, let us adjust the shadows to a good place like that one. So generally you can see that the photo is becoming more dramatic as we continue editing. This the red is used to adjust the reds in your photos, but there are specific colors, as you can see. Then we have so at that level, I think that is fine. We shall leave it at that level. I think that is better. No? Let us handle it to a certain level. Yeah, like that. Now, to the greens, the same case. We shall increase the amount of greens and balance it so that the picture cannot become very greenish, neither purple or pinkish to that level. Same case to the blues. As you can see, the lower level does not have the blues, but if we touch the tone curve at the upper level, it is affecting the upper blues within that range. Done. Now let us enter into the colors. Now the colors, we have the white balance, which is the temperature. So you can adjust your temperature to the most suitable place, let's say to that one. Then we have the tint. This generally tints the entire, either a greenish value of the purplish value. So should we take it to that level, it becomes tinted with green, a lot of green, and the opposite side tinted with purplish pinkish color. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. Then we shall adjust it to just almost to the features that are in this photo. They were properly shot, so there is no need of much color adjustment. Then you have the vibrance. Then the vibrance of the color makes it dull or bright according to the situation or the dramatic nature you want your photos to display. Then we shall make that photo vibrant. Then we have the saturation. The saturation, generally, this decreases or increases the saturation of all the colors in your photo as you handle the saturation. But now, instead of using that saturation which affects every color, we have the color mix, which is the HSL panel. When I talk of the HSL, I'm meaning the hue, saturation, and the luminance. The HSL panel is perfect in handling the saturation bit because it already has the saturation of each color individually. To start with the red, the hue changes the. Okay, if we talk of the red, we have different types of red. They vary. As in generally, we don't have a specific kind of red. They vary from colors. Now the hue is used to pick the specific red that you want from a range of the red colors. So at the center here is the default red which was on your photo. Then you can pick the red from different versions of red. Let's see up to there. Then we have the saturation. Saturation increases the intensity of the color red. So let us increase the saturation. You should know that if there is no red in your photo, then nothing will be affected by the red tabs. Then we increase the saturation. Then the luminance refers to the brightness or the darkness of that color. So for example, if we reduce the luminance, we are making the luminance or the red dark. If we increase the luminance, we are making the red brighter. Now let us go to the orange color. This one checks for the orange color in your photo. Again, as we are seeing, the hue is used to select the range of colors, as you can see. Now let us use the default hue. Then saturation will increase the intensity of the color or reduce it according to how you move the slider. Then we have the luminance, which increase or decrease the brightness of the orange color. Then let's go to the yellow. They all work the same way. You choose the type of yellow you want. Then after choosing, you increase it or reduce its intensity, then its luminance. Same case to green, move it. Saturation, let's keep it to that level. Then its luminance. As you can see, the photo has started becoming very dramatic. Let's slightly adjust our yellow to find the best point. Choose our yellow at that point. Yeah, generally you can see that the photo is becoming interesting. Then we have the aqua. We choose the level of the aqua you want. As you can see, the aqua is affecting the skies. Then let's say to that level. Then saturation, you saturate and make it based on what you want. As you can see, the color is becoming better. Let us adjust our yellow again. It is affecting it. For example, I have noted that the yellow is affecting or let's say I have noted that the building at this point is getting affected. Therefore, and I don't know which color was here. Then we have this panel here. That button allows you, when you touch the surface, it shows you the appropriate colors. For example, here it is getting affected by green and yellow. Then you have the hue, the saturation, and the luminance. By just sliding it picks, let's say saturation or the luminance, we shall reduce the luminance of yellow, and the saturation we shall increase the saturation or balance the saturation so that the photo can be properly balanced. Let us reduce the luminance. This photo appears to be very bright, so we shall reduce the luminance of yellow. Yeah, like that. Then let's talk about blue. Let's check for the proper blue. The one we wish to use, it's that one, the default one, slightly enhanced. Then we should move the saturation to that point. Saturation. Then the luminance, if you illuminate the skies, they start fading. So in terms of the skies, I always suggest that you reduce the luminance. Again, don't overdo it and make it begin to look unnatural. Let us leave it at that point. Then let's check for a more dramatic sky. Let's use, for example, the sky which is more of aqua. You should also know that in this editing session, the red, for example, the negative side of red is closer to the pink here. So it goes like, you see the variance of the red from this side to this side, then it enters orange. Then when it enters orange, orange is the next color. Then orange picks up from where the red has left and gradually becomes yellowish. Yeah. Then the yellow peaks from where the orange has left, then extends to green, then green extends to aqua, aqua extends to blue, blue extends to purple, purple extends to magenta, and again magenta extends to red. And it is a continuous flow like that. So let us set our blue to that level. Now, basically, as you can see, the colors are becoming more dramatic, more dramatic. We are done with editing the colors. Now we can generally reduce the saturation of the colors. Maybe some are saturated, that as balance. Okay, that level, I think that's fine. As you can see, the photo is still shadowy at this point. So at this point, we need to remove the shadows. Now, those are the advantages of using the selective editing. I could have just selected this area using the red radio filter and then adjust here. But now, because mine is not a premium version, we have to select it to do the entire adjustment of the entire photograph. So let us reduce the shadows, or if not the shadows, then it is the blacks. Yeah, at least to that level. Yeah, even the shadows a bit. When we reduce the shadow, the picture is becoming too bright. Then in that case, we minimize the exposure to compensate. We reduce the exposure, and the contrast we reduce, and the highlights we reduce to the minimum. Yeah, and basically our photo is getting more and more beautiful. Now we are through. No, we are not yet through with the colors. So we shall color grade the photo. In color grading, we have to color grade the shadow. This will handle the shadows only. So here in this, the inner circle is used to handle the saturation, whereby to this level, that is the maximum saturation of the shadows. While as you enter inside towards the radius, this is the, or the center of the circle, this is the minimum saturation. Then the outer circle is used to pick the kind of color you would wish. In our case, I would wish us to use the aqua. Then saturate it a bit, aqua. Saturate it a bit. Then we can make it more, we can reduce the luminance. We don't want the shadows to be very bright. Then the blending refers to how it mixes with the other colors to become uniform. So we can increase the blending. Then we can also increase the balance so that it can balance with other colors. You can also color grade the midtones and the highlights as well, and do the luminance and blending options. Then we can generate global, refers to the entire photo. Here you choose the colors that you want to apply to the photograph, then balance its luminance. So it is as simple as that. Then we have the effects tab. The effects tab is used to create to balance now the effects of the photos. Let's say the texture, you can make your photo become rough or smooth based on the texture that you select. So then we have the clarity. You can make your photo grainy or very smooth and appear as if it is blurred. But in our case, let me increase the clarity a bit. Then we have the dehaze. If your photo has haze, we can dehaze the photo or increase the amount of haze or dehaze, as you can see the effects. Okay, then we have the vignette. Now when we are talking about the lens profiles here. We were talking of the lens vignetting. Now let us see what vignette is. Back into the effects. The vignette refers to these black shadows that will get applied here. As you can see, we have the black ones or the whites. You see, that's what we call the vignette. Now, I always prefer using the black vignetting. You should note that before I touched the vignette, all these panels were locked because they are related to vignette. Then we have the midpoint, but after touching the vignette, they were unlocked. Now, the midpoint is used to set how far from the center the vignette should be. As you can see, the dramatic nature of the vignetting, let's set that level. Then the feather button is used, or the feather slider is used to set the softness of the vignette. Let's say take it to that level. It makes it very curvy, but when we take it to the positive side, it becomes soft and blends very well with the rest of the photo. Then you have the roundness. This makes the vignette become a square or the round according to how in relation to the border of the feather and the midpoint. Then we have the highlights. We can increase the highlights in the vignette. We can increase the number of grains on the photo, but in our case we don't want the grains, so we reset that back to normal. Generally, that is what I use. Now, when you touch the grain, you unlock the size of the grain and its roughness. But in our case, we don't want grain, so we just lock it. Then we have the details. Details handles sharpening and other features. Sharpening of the photos. Let's say you can make your photos sharp, and or you can just keep it. These are just features which I rarely use. To say you can increase the sharpening of your photo. Then the radius, how you prefer the sharpening to take effect. Then we have the details. You can increase the details in your photo. Then we have the masking. These are just. Then you have the noise reduction. The noise refers to the amount of grains in your photo. So when you reduce noise, you are reducing the amount of grains in your photo. Generally, software like Photoshop Express handle noise reduction better than Lightroom. You should consider even combining the Photoshop Express software with the Adobe Lightroom. Both are from the Adobe Creative Cloud. We have the details about the noise. We have the contrast. And basically such things. Color noise reduction. You may introduce noise by selecting a certain color. So to reduce that noise, you use the color noise reduction panel. Like that. So you can note that the photo is becoming dramatic as we edit. And now that marks the end of our editing session. Now the next function is to export your photo into your gallery. So you just come here, share to, click the settings so that you can customize how your watermark will look like. Click on customize. After customizing, you can see we give it some time to load. Okay, as you can see, Lightroom is a big software, and once again I said you must have a large random access memory because it can cache anytime based on the RAM of your device. Right now I'm using an Infinix Hot 8 X650B, which is a 2 GB RAM. And as you can see, Lightroom is taking a lot of time to respond. Let's give it some time. Generally, what you have to do after importing or after editing, you'll just after customizing your watermark, you go back and then click on save to device, and Lightroom will export your photo into your gallery. And that's all about using Lightroom. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and share the video. In that way, you'll motivate me to make more content about photo editing and photography. Thank you.